There was a period in my career when I worked at Department of Health. Eventually, I stepped into a public health attorney role that became one of my favorite positions I've ever held. And I loved the work. I loved the mission. I loved the people. I loved the intellectual challenge that was involved with this work. I was fulfilled. And that is exactly why the drift was so difficult for me to recognize. The more specialized I became, the more my long-term transferability narrowed. But I did not experience myself as stuck. I experienced myself as satisfied. I was not unhappy. I was not disengaged. I was not burned out, but I was drifting. Somewhere in that season, I realized something that changed how I think about professional development entirely. I had confused satisfaction, fulfillment even, with intentionality. Meaningful work can still narrow your professional world if you stop intentionally assessing whether you are where you're headed. I think the issue wasn't whether the work mattered, it mattered. The issue was whether I was still intentionally designing my development or whether I had allowed the role to begin designing me. See, career movement is not career design. And the most dangerous drift is the drift that happens because you never feel there's a drift because the work is just too good to question. Some lawyers burn out loudly, others drift quietly. And the quiet drift may be more dangerous because it really feels dangerous when it is happening. It can feel like competence, stability, even success. I think a lot of lawyers are drifting right now, and many of them don't even realize it just yet. Some of you know exactly what I mean. Some of you are succeeding inside of careers you are no longer intentionally evaluating. Some of you have become so busy performing that you've stopped asking whether the performance is still aligned with who you're becoming. That is why mentoring matters, but not in the way the profession often talks about mentoring. The legal profession has not stopped talking about mentoring. We create programs, we form committees, we host receptions, we pair people, we celebrate participation. And still, lawyers drift. Talented associates leave, government attorneys become invisible inside of agencies, in-house attorneys stabilize, and we watch accomplished people begin to drift throughout the profession. Not suddenly, gradually, almost without noticing. The profession treats these as separate problems. There's burnout here, there's retention over there, and there's advancement somewhere else. But many of these things are the same problems wearing different clothes. The profession thinks it has a mentoring problem. I think we have a development architecture problem. Lawyers do not begin passive. Think about it. Everything that's required to become a lawyer, the grades, the LSAT, the law school, the interviews, the bar exam. You did not get here by waiting, but something shifts. Somewhere along the way, many lawyers stop designing and start reacting. They're waiting for the assignments to reveal a path, waiting for the supervisors to notice their potential, waiting for the institutions to direct their growth. And the same people who once turned on the light to their own advancement in career begin sitting in darkness waiting for someone else to turn it back on. Some of you are very successful, and I wonder, when did you stop intentionally designing your future? Or maybe the harder question is, when was the last time you did intentionally design your future? Every lawyer has had that professor, the brilliant one who is completely inaccessible, the one whose exams felt disconnected from the lectures, and yet somehow you figured it out anyway because the grade was yours. Nobody told you to wait for that professor to become a better teacher before you started learning. The professor is now the employer and the grade is your career. And in practice, you write your own syllabus. Professional maturity is not the absence of support. It is the ability to continue developing yourself even when that support that you deserve is not yet available. The profession keeps approaching mentoring as if one mentor solves the problem. It does not. Most lawyers do not have a mentoring gap. They have a mentoring portfolio gap. Different mentors serve different purposes. You need developmental mentors, people who can evaluate the architecture of where your career is headed. You need tactical mentors, people who can help you avoid mistakes before they become consequences. And you need perspective mentors, people who are far enough outside of your daily environment to ask questions that insiders may never ask. Because sometimes the people around you are helping you succeed exactly where you are, while no one is helping you evaluate whether where you are is still where you should be. Many mentoring failures are not relationship failures, they're assessment failures. We build programs around access and goodwill. We rarely build them around developmental alignment, mentor competency, or strategic growth. And so programs exist, but development is still being confused with the programs that were supposed to produce it. The profession teaches lawyers how to perform, to think, argue, advocate, but it spends far less time teaching lawyers how to evaluate the lives and careers they are building while performing. And that gap has consequences, not just professionally, humanly, stress, burnout, disengagement, isolation. We call these separate problems, but they're often downstream consequences of people trying to sustain demanding careers without intentional development infrastructure around them to support them. Many lawyers are not merely under-mentored, they are under-reflected. The profession underestimates how dangerous it is to leave development to chance. Before a skydiver leaves the plane, every safety system is in place already. The primary parachute, the reserve, the emergency backup. None of it gets assembled during free fall, because free fall is the worst possible time to start building safety infrastructure. But the legal profession often does the opposite. It trains lawyers to be exceptional, then leaves mentoring, developmental support, self-awareness, and sustainability as something they'll figure out later, usually when the pressure is highest, which is exactly when it becomes the hardest to build such a system. And this matters because lawyers are not merely building careers, they're building lives. Throughout my career, I have encountered mentors who changed trajectories, people who offered perspective when clarity disappeared, people who challenged, people who protected, and asked better questions than I was able to ask myself. No single mentor carried everything. Intentional developmental relationships repeatedly made the difference between growth and drift, continuity and crisis, staying and leaving. This is why this conversation matters, not because mentoring is trendy, but because human beings are not designed to carry high-pressure professional lives alone indefinitely. To the lawyers listening, you are not passive getting into this profession. You are disciplined, intentional, and driven. That same capacity that carried you here is the same capacity you must now apply to your own development. Build the relationships your career needs. Develop self-awareness as a professional discipline. Build your developmental infrastructure before you are already in free fall. Passivity did not get you into this profession. It will not allow you to thrive in it. It will only produce drift. And drift is not professional longevity. It's a slow departure. Mentoring is not something you hope for. It is something you design. To the institutions listening, stop measuring mentoring by participation. Measure it by transformation. Do not ask whether the program exists. Ask whether people are growing, staying, becoming more whole inside the profession. Development is infrastructure. Invest in it accordingly. And to all of us, together, imagine a legal profession where lawyers are not slowly disappearing inside careers they worked so hard to build. Imagine a profession where ambition and humanity are not treated as opposing forces, where mentoring is not left to chance, where development does not end after law school graduation but continues throughout the lifespan of a career, where lawyers are taught not only how to achieve, but how to build sustainable careers, fulfilling lives, and professional identities that remain over time. Imagine what becomes possible when people stop drifting and start designing. That profession is possible, not someday, not theoretically, now. It begins with one intentional relationship at a time, one honest conversation, one lawyer who decides to be an active participant in their own development. The future of the legal profession will not belong to the organizations with the most mentoring programs or participants. It'll belong to the organizations that learn how to intentionally develop people. I'm Samantha Divine. Mentoring is not luck, it is leverage, and leverage changes careers.